Hey everybody, before we get started, let me just explain what's happening in this episode. It's a bit longer of an episode than normal, but we're going to be doing a coaching session for a podcast consultant who's looking to shift into higher end clients. We get to identify his new sales strategy, identify ideal prospects, and strengthen his positioning. This is perfect if you run a service business and you want to level up your sales. Let's get started. All right, welcome back everybody to The Slow Pitch, and today we have a special guest. He is Vince Quinn, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about what he does, but we're going to talk about some of the challenges that a lot of people run into when you're growing and you're changing and shifting and trying to go after a little bit different prospect, and how you can approach some of that. So what I want to do is kind of turn it over to Vince for a quick second here. And Vince, give us a little bit of insight as to what you do and how you do it and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm a podcast strategy company, and what that means is we help a lot of businesses, coaches, consultants, real estate agents, like people who are the business. In a lot of cases, we help them use podcasting as a means to increase their awareness, build relationships, and drive sales. And so that can include production, but because a lot of people need that, and we're happy to do it. But that's not our main thing. The main thing is, why are you doing this? What are the topics for the show? How do you interview people in the right way? How often should you have interviews? Who should you invite on for interviews? Like all sorts of the nuancy things that can really help the business get the value of not just the work, but the time and the expense. Like, don't do the show to get 1 million downloads and try to be Joe Rogan and get sponsors. Like, make the show to sell. So that's what we're all about. That's what I do.
That's cool. And I know that that's a growing industry or group of people that are like starting to understand podcasts will drive you new business. And so it'll at least give you prospects, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they turn over. So you are the kind of people that just basically help people put that together, come up with the idea. Maybe they have the idea of what they want to talk about, but I'm sure you've probably seen it where people come up with an idea and you're like, why would anybody want to listen to that? Have you run into some of that before? As I can see you laughing. Yeah.
No, never. Everybody has great ideas all the time, Rob. Nobody's ever missed. No,
it's a home run every time. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, let's have another show where everybody just tells their backstory for an hour and a half with no drive or purpose behind it. What could go wrong?
Yes.
I've seen a lot of bad ideas out there, and that is a lot of it. I mean, it's getting people, because they're building it on this expectation of like, I'm going to be famous and get the download. So their whole approach is, I'm going to be broad and general. And my whole thing is, no, you should do literally the complete opposite, and you should be so incredibly specific and exclusive. And like, that's the way to go. So I have to completely turn people around on these concepts, because it can get really wild sometimes.
I can only imagine, and I mean, just from seeing from my perspective where I see people do things, because I do a variety of different things. Obviously I run a video production company, but I also do a lot of sales things, training, and those types of things. So there's some things that I come up with that I hear and I go, I don't understand where you're coming from on this, or why you would approach that way, that kind of thing. But at the same time, people often think about things from their own perspective, right? So what they think is important, and in reality, it's not always about that. And so obviously on this podcast, we talk about sales stuff, and honestly, it's the same. I run the same problem with salespeople. They don't think about what does the other person need, not this is a sale for me and I'm going to make a commission off this, right? So, that's the frustrating I see, that where I'm like, well, if you just looked at it from their perspective, I would imagine that your sale is probably not their most important thing today. So they probably didn't think about calling you back. Maybe that's the reason, right? So, I mean, these are the things but like we can all say these things about people in our industry, the people that we sell to, that kind of thing. But I also, there's a piece of this that is kind of important that kind of reflects into what you wanted to talk about a little bit, which is kind of like you're changing and shifting. So kind of talk through some of the shifts and changes that you're doing right now, what you're working on.
Yeah, so it's funny because the business has been going for 5 years, and just from the start of the business and when I got involved into podcasting full time versus where we are now, that's shifted entirely. I mean, at the front of it, I was a studio-focused business in a physical space, and we were dealing with entertainment shows locally. So we're trying to build up these entertainment shows that have no business behind them. They don't have a big audience. They're starting from scratch. And it was obviously just a terrible business. I mean, none of these shows stuck around, and we're doing all this work to build them up, and you have no retention, and it's such a narrow area of people you can work with, and just everything was bad. So over time, we completely flipped. And now, like I said earlier, like we work with businesses. It's mostly remote. We do have some studio spaces, but all those are partnered with co-working spaces, which is great.
Yep.
So now it's an amenity for them, and it's an add-on for the members of those clubs. So that's great. But generally, yeah, it's remote with businesses and all of that. So now it's been, my main client has been like a coach, a consultant. I would bet, not knowing their books, but I would bet a lot of these people are making less than $10,000 a month, maybe even half that in some cases. So they like the idea of podcasting because it feels lightweight and attainable, and they know there's a lot of value to have in it. But every penny does matter, and there can be some level of really grinding it out to get these people to convert. And beyond that, like just to do the strategy and the production is a cost. Like I have to help them shape all of these things and understand these conversations and guide them a lot in addition to the production. So that's going to be an expense. But then to go beyond that and say, okay, well, let's make sure you're promoting posts on LinkedIn, or let's get somebody else that can run a great newsletter for you, or something we'll probably talk about later with like sales systems. Like maybe you're not as efficient as you could be. They don't necessarily have the budget to make those kinds of investments. So what I'm looking for is a higher quality, like a higher income kind of market. And that can be coaches that just have a better income, or it could be more in the B2B space and just getting into some things directly where it's like a mid-sized business that has a marketing department and they still have somebody that can be the face and anchor the show, and I can help with that, but they've got the muscle to do all of that promotion. But I just don't know those people, Rob. I don't know them. I don't know where to begin.
So you don't have any of those clients now. You know that they're out there, or you think they're out there?
Oh, I mean, I've seen a lot of other production companies that are out there that are doing that kind of work, and their price point is significantly higher as a result. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen people, for the conversations I've had with people who have talked to those kinds of businesses, some of my competition are like, yeah, you're really affordable. But that's because a lot of the time my pricing's been for the smaller client. So, like, then I'm, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's how it's been.
So have you asked them, where did you find that client, or how did you get a hold of that client?
So no, because for those other production companies. So yeah, I don't know them is the unfortunate thing. Like I've done some market research. Yeah. So I've just looked around because I've come from a place of complete ignorance where, I left radio of 10 years then. I'm in the studio business. So like I've had to slowly pick my head up and just learn the landscape, which has been part of the big issue. I don't know who the players are. So I've started to do some research and see that. And just based on what I've seen on the surface, there's plenty of companies that are built for higher quality B2B sales, sometimes like, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000 a month to manage all of these shows. And they've got all these perks behind it. And so, I know they're out there, but I don't know anything on the back end, how they access people, what kind of channels they're in, like nothing.
So if you're trying to acquire them, are there any local companies that you would want to target, or that you are targeting now, that you would like to be able to get in front of, that to be able to offer your service?
So it's one of those things that I don't have a good answer in this moment, and that's part of what I'm trying to decipher. Because one level is like the coaches, right? Like how do I find a place where like a high level coach is, and how do I go and scout that? Like that's a hard thing. And then from the other side of the different industries to go and target beyond that, like I've thought about real estate because I have some shows that I've worked with in that space. I know some people in that, and I think they, as an industry, get it. So I'm open to businesses in the real estate, realm and going after them. But I can't say I've got one in particular that I'm like, this is a textbook client. It's probably more of a similar vein where it's an agent that's bringing in a good dollar figure and gets the value of being a face.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that too. I mean, a single individual, as long as it pays them back, right? That's what they're happy about. So I think the other question becomes, if you haven't been able to kind of clarify what that target audience is, or exactly, and be able to list those traits and those things off, that's probably a very good first step in terms of listing out what is it that would be required for them to be able to work with you. So for me, like for example, I in one of the businesses that I run, it's they there's got to be a certain threshold of dollars that they can spend. That's an easy one to figure out, right? You want this much, okay, that's fine. But what does that company look like from a visual standpoint? So for me, I would say a good description that I always use for people is if they have more than 50 employees, that's a good sign there's probably enough cash flow that they can afford somebody like us. If they have a couple of different locations, that's another good indicator that I should be able to figure out if they're going to be somebody worthwhile. If their sales, when I start to do some research and I see that their sales are over a certain dollar amount or millions, over a certain dollar amount in millions a year, that's probably a good level too, because those types of numbers require overhead, the cost for the labor, the cost for all the different things, and whatever they need to do to manufacture or do their business, whether it's service or otherwise. They then have a threshold of sales or revenue that I know is typically high enough that can afford this type of thing, right? So have you kind of listed some of those things out or created that, or are you still working through that?
So it's tough because the thing is, the way I've approached all this content, I have a couple of different philosophies. And I think from that, it leads me to a level of paralysis. So let me explain one lane of thinking.
Yeah.
One is maybe I should target marketing agencies, because the idea is, one, I could partner with the agency. They get the idea of the value of a podcast. They would be able to promote that thing and do all of the work around it. Like, that could be a good potential partnership. And with that, if I'm getting the right kind of agency, then they would have the opportunity to also recommend me to their clients, because I'm working with them. Like, what better referral partner than saying, hey, we're working with this company, you should work with them too. So I've thought about that as an ideal kind of client. And obviously there's a million marketing agencies out there. So from that standpoint, it just, I overthink it, because I'm like, well, do they offer podcasting? Are they just going to steal it from me? Part of me is gun shy to go after marketing agencies as much as I think they're ideal. And
so, all right, let me stop you there. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Let's say you go after a marketing agency. You pitch the idea. They have podcasting and they start taking the idea, right? Okay. You didn't get that business, but you didn't have the business now to begin with. So what would stop you from just calling and finding out? Because you never know. 9 times out of 10, here's what I found. 9 times out of 10, when I feel like that feeling of, oh, they're going to do this or they're going to do that, or it's going to a little bit, they don't. They have enough stuff going on in their lives already. They don't think about, oh, we could just take that on. What are we going to do? They don't feel like doing that. That's not their specialty. That's not their wheelhouse. Now, if they already have that service, that's one thing, right? But if they don't have it and they go, well, we could start doing this. I mean, my attitude for you would be, go ahead, try. I already got all these things set up. But go ahead. I'm gonna outrun you, because I'm gonna call up 5 other people too. Or why not call 10 marketing agencies and let's try it, see what happens, right? So to me, it's there. I get the fear of it, but I also think there's a piece of that which is like, hey, so what? I look at, even just in the town or city that I'm in, or the area that I'm in, there is so much business in this area. There are other people that do what I do. I can't serve all of them. There's just no way I could, right? While it feels very like competitive to me, I just look at it and go, okay, go ahead. You want to go after the same client? Go ahead. I don't care. I can work on selling it now. No, probably earlier than you will. If I can figure out whether or not they're going to go with me or somebody else, I can figure that out earlier than you will. So you go ahead and waste your time on it. That's fine. You know what I mean? Because I just know that's how it works. I had a call today, for example. They had a problem with somebody else doing the same type of work, and they needed help fixing that problem now. And after, I think, probably 3 questions, there was no way in the world I was going to work with that person, because the problem wasn't that other vendor, if you will, whatever you want. It was that person calling me. Honest, that's the way it felt. And I was like, there's no way I'm touching that with a 10-foot pole. So the fear is totally understandable. I get it. I used to do that too all the time, but I think you got to try it. I would reach out to 10 right now. Like, just start calling them and see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm open to that. I mean, I'm actually just the idea of getting on the phone too. Like, how much do you mean call them? Let me ask you that. How do you value calling versus sending an email?
Oh, calling every time I was much better. Here, let me tell you a little fun trick that I used. So somebody taught me this, and I'll teach you and teach everybody else listening, and you can use it as much as you want. It's kind of a cool little trick. Here's what I do. I call up somebody, and it always goes to voicemail. I don't care if you call in and you go to the admin in the front or somebody that's answering the phone, and they direct you to the right person, they never answer, right? That's okay. But what I typically will do is I will call and leave this voicemail. I will say, oh, hi, sorry. This is Rob. I'm calling from, I have a note on my desk, and I have no idea what this means. I'm hoping you can help me with this. It says I needed to call you, but I'm not sure why. let me just cut through some red tape. Here's my cell phone. Call me back when you have a second. It'll probably take 5 minutes or less. I'm guessing somebody just wanted me to talk to you. Thanks. And here's my number. Right? Very quick, very I don't know what to say, but they call me back 9 times out of 10. The one time that they don't, they don't. Either they didn't get the message or they just don't listen to their voicemail. Fine. They almost always call me back. And I've had people get on the phone with me and go, what's this about? And I'm like, well, somebody left on my desk that I needed to call you. I don't know why. I was hoping you could help me. And they, make it their problem. Like this becomes a game then. So I just say, what do you think they would make me call? Why would they want me to call you? Well, what do you do? Now I have an open reason to tell them my commercial, right? Yeah. If I call them and pitch them my commercial, they don't want to listen to it. But if they're like, well, what is this about? Who are you? Well, good question. I am so sorry. I just dove right into this call. I didn't even tell you what I do and who I am. Sorry. So my name is Rob and my company is this, and this is what I do. And I give them a very quick 10, 15 seconds, not even, right? And they go, almost all the time, they go, that's weird. Who gave you my number? I go, I don't know. They just put it on my desk. It says your name, this phone number. I don't know. And can you think of any reason why? And I've had a couple times somebody go, we were just talking about this. And they probably just told, they probably knew somebody that knew somebody. You want to talk real quick now? Okay. And I'm in, right? Now it starts. So that's an easy trick. It takes all the pressure off you. You have no pressure. Because if they go, I don't know who you are. I don't know why would they would even think that I need your services. Why would I even need a podcast? I don't know. And my answer is always like, I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was kind of crazy too, but listen, I'm just following orders. And they just kind of laugh and they just think it's okay. And no harm, no foul. And then I almost always would end it with, you probably don't need it now. That's totally fine. Would you mind if I got your email? Just send you a quick note. So thank you, first of all. And then you have my contact. If you ever did want to talk about it, you have it. And then last piece would be, if you think of somebody that might need it, would you mind just shooting them an email with my contact? And they say yes. Have I ever gotten an email from that? No. But could it happen? Yes. So it takes all the pressure off, and it's a fun little call to make.
That's so fascinating. I love that. That's such a
really
sneaky way in.
It really is fascinating. And when somebody told me this, I thought they were crazy. I'm like, how could I do that? And my first question was, why would you start it out with a lie? And I'm like, well, it's not a lie. I just have somebody write it down and put it on my desk. It's not a lie. I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. And he goes, and if you wrote it down, forgot you wrote it down and put it on your desk, is that a lie? I'm like, well, no, I'm the only one in my office. How could, anyway, but it's not really starting at a lie. It's more of a tactic to try to get somebody to at least be inquisitive about what you do. And it works. And it's a fun and it takes the pressure off, because if they say, get out of here, I don't want to talk to you, you go, yeah, I didn't think so. It's totally fine. It's fun.
Okay. Yeah, no, I do like that. And it is so hard to break through, because that's been the hard thing. I mean, just obviously getting somebody to answer a call in itself is such a hard thing to do. And what kind of voicemail do you leave? But I definitely prefer my ability to talk more than type. So, yeah to be able to lean in like that.
Think about all the emails you get in a day that you just go, just for this pod. I mean, you do podcasting. I do podcast. I get people calling me or reaching out in my email like, oh, we want to do this. We want to promote that. We want to do this. And they're selling themselves to be on the podcast, or they're selling themselves to do something for my website. It's like, they don't even know who I am. They're just blanket ending, and nobody reads those, right? Nobody reads those. So be different than everybody else. And I will say this: if you ever called that person back that you had that call back that you started that call with, where I just called you because somebody gave me their name on my desk, if you called them back, they would remember you. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Because nobody else calls that way.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
So,
okay.
So that's part of the process. You're growing quickly, and that once you kind of identify who that is, I mean, I would even say, could you start with a local chamber or a local networking group and start asking for those types of referrals too? Because people forget to go, if they go to a chamber event, they always forget to network the right way, which is actually ask for a referral and try to get referrals to come in instead of hi, I'm and shaking my hand, and that's great. But talking about it. But have you done some of the local stuff too?
So yeah, I've done a lot of local stuff because for me that was the first thing coming from the local studio physical space, right? It was this whole progression of I'm going to join a bunch of local network groups and try some chambers of commerce and things like that, and I'm just going to see what's out there and get a feel for these landscapes and occasionally make those investments. Like I'm going to join these groups and go for a couple of months and be there consistently and build my name out. But so a lot of them go bust, and that's fine. But it was good to have the experience of those things and build some relationships and just get a feel for the market. So that's what's helped sharpen everything a bit is, okay, I know how to be in person with people. I know how to maintain a relationship from there. And occasionally I do have people that reach out 8 months later and they'll go, hey, Vince, actually, I'm ready for this thing. Are you good? And it's like, yes, I am. Well, thank you for calling. So so I know enough of like the relationship building aspect, and I will get referrals regularly enough where people, are just like through LinkedIn DMs, they'll connect. But finding those better places, I guess, as much as I'm learning the ecosystem of all of the different kinds of networking groups that are out there, the hardest thing is to find the places that I don't know. So it's like, I think it's this marketing avenue where it could be referrals, but it could be health tech. And because Philly, I'm in Philadelphia, and there's a lot of that around here. So maybe I'm getting into like the health sciences space and going after that. But then it's like I'm already running this business and doing all of this work and prospecting the way that I do, which has some level of effectiveness. But like trying to. So that's the biggest thing too. I get this paralysis of like, what is that best next step to go after, hire people in the most efficient way? Because I only have so much time. So I keep punting the decision to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's normal, but that's usually a matter of just taking the first step. So one of the things that will fix any sales problem is action, and that is just taking the phone and picking it up and doing it, or going in networking. I mean, listen, the other thing that I've started to do, which is different than I used to do, which is as I'm part of the chamber, what I will do is I will literally ask for different lunch meetings from people that are at a level that I shouldn't be sitting having lunch with, and it's very uncomfortable for me. I've had lunches with people that I'm like, I don't belong here, one-on-one. And it's crazy, but nobody asks them. And I'm networking. I've gotten to know some of these people a little bit in a networking setting. And then just somewhere along the line, I just mentioned, we should grab lunch sometime. It'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about you guys, just because I don't know enough about what you guys do. If nothing else, you eat lunch, I eat lunch. Let's just do it together. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And so even the marketing agencies, even though some of those other referral sources, people that see the same clients, those are the kinds of people you want to have lunch with. And, use that to your advantage, because now you have them captively to just get to know them a little bit, right? And eventually, and listen, I never try to sell anybody at lunch either. Like that's never the thing. Yeah. It's always about having lunch, right? But they always ask, well, how do you guys do this? Or how do you do that? What do you guys do? How does that work? They always ask. So, because I'm always asking them, but by the way, have about 10 or 15 really deep questions to ask them that maybe somebody else hasn't asked them before. Even like, I've even asked people like, what are some of the things you're reading right now? Or what are you learning about right now? What do you guys do with AI? How do you guys do, some of those types of questions? Because I find that nobody really starts to ask those. And obviously they're all ingrained in their own work, right?
Yeah. No, and the curiosity thing is big. I completely believe in that. I mean, for one of the things I can say from a sales side that has worked, because for me, I go on podcasts to sell what I do. And it makes sense. I'm talking to podcast hosts from different businesses, and like it's great. They hear me talk for an hour, and they go, "He gets it. I got to work with him." So, but to be able to have those conversations, I'm not selling to the host. I'm just talking about what I do, and I'm treating it like lunch. And then by the end of it, once they're done recording, if they want to talk to me about it, they go, "Hey, actually, I've been having a hard time. My downloads are stuck." And like, great. So that's all well and good. So but to be able to translate that then and just really, it sounds like just commit the time to finding one of those lanes and going for it. So marketing makes a lot of sense. Just finding some marketing groups and aiming for bigger fish.
Yep. I think that's totally the case. So, one of the things we talked about a little bit earlier too, briefly, was this ability to convert for some of your clients. Walk me through some of that challenge.
Yeah. So when I'm working with a client, let's say it's a coach, right? So I'll help them come up with all of this content And it's very much about the exact problem they solve. And it's very informative and it's engaging. And we're posting about it. We're creating video clips and we're doing it on different platforms. And the show is available on YouTube in addition to Spotify and Apple and everything else. So it's quality content on every promotional channel that they've got. It's about what they do. It's related to their offers. It's to the target audience. All of that is great. Even if they have the right audience, though, the sales gap is real. And it's, I can help them build the audience and get the attention and get the awareness and get that up. But I can't guarantee them sales because I don't build their sales system. I'm getting them leads in the funnel, but I'm not building their system. And trying to think about ways to bridge that gap a little bit and maximize the sales aspect of the content is really huge. And when you think about it, for me, I'm selling to them high ticket, right? Like these coaches, consultants, you get a client for 6 months at even $1,000 a month. Hey, that's $6K. Like that's, you get 2 sales a year. Like you're killing it through this show. So like that's my sale. That's my pitch to them. But yeah, ultimately their sales process isn't always good at capitalizing on it and fully converting people. So I don't know what to do with that space that feels out of my grasp.
So my first question, or kind of going a little bit backwards in order, if you will, let's back up to your sales process.
Sure.
Which is you're pitching them. This is, if you sell just this, you sell this, one of the things I always try to make sure that I share with people is if you can make it about their data, not yours, you're better off. So in other words, I would always ask questions, and maybe I should just ask you, are you asking them questions about, hey, if you did this podcast and you ended up, what's your goal with this podcast? Like, let's role play it real quick. What's your goal? Like you're a client, I'm you, and I'm trying to sell you to get on this podcast. And I say, what is your goal with trying to create this podcast?
Yeah.
What would they say?
Well, it's tough because a lot of times they'll say the wrong thing, which is I want to get a lot of downloads and I want to be really, I want to be really popular. I want to get I want to get a lot of downloads and I want to get a sponsor is what they'll say.
Okay. And have you done any research on how that works?
So no, I don't. No, I have no idea how that works.
Okay. And so what do you think the sponsor is going to look for?
So I think they're going to look for big download numbers. And so I need to just do whatever I can, which is why I want to get a lot of guests. And hopefully those guests promote the show for me. And eventually they'll bring their audience and I'll get a big following and be super rich and famous through sponsors.
Sounds cool. Like everybody should do this, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know why we're not. I mean, of course.
I agree. Yeah. So when you start this podcast, let's pretend you have all that. You have 1,000 downloads a second. Like it's going crazy. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, I just want to get sponsors. And like this is the thing. This is where people do stutter and stall a lot because they haven't thought of that next step, which is why it's so much like rerouting.
So then I'm sure you kind of take them down this road of like, well, can I tell you why some of the other people have started their podcast and why they do what they do? So you do that. So by doing that, you're putting them in their frame of mind that you want them to be in, right? Which is thinking about it in terms of the future and what they look like they can get into and where they're going to get returns. But so you get through that process a little bit of having that conversation. When you add, and I'm sure you do, but let's say you ask the question, you have your podcast up and running, you get a lead that comes in. What's your process?
So for them, like what's my process for running their show then? Everything's up and going?
No. So when you're interviewing them in the beginning, you're asking them, what's your process? Once you get a lead that comes in, what do you do then?
Okay. Yeah. And
do you ask that? So
no, I don't ask it consistently enough, honestly. The only way that I have asked it is like, what is your call to I will say, what is your call to action? But I'll ask that in the context of building the show. Like, okay, well, once we have people's attention, where do you want them to go? And I'll kind of lean into it that way of what would you like them to do? So a lot of times that's, hey, I want them to follow me on LinkedIn, which I don't think is a great CTA either.
Right.
But that's what they ask for sometimes. And then other times it's just as simple as I want them to book a call.
Yeah. So let's say they book a call. What happens then? Like just keep drilling them. That's what I feel like you would end up doing. But I also then would ask the question of you, which is, if you took let's say they are talking to you about doing a podcast, but now they hung up the phone and they call 5 other people that do what you do. And do they ask the exact same questions?
Ooh, honestly, no. I don't think a lot of people do. Like other production companies, do they ask the same questions that I do? No. Yeah. I think a lot of times it feels like very impersonal and cold, and they just say yes to whatever you want in terms of what the show actually is. And it's a lot more of how can we charge you a lot of money to do a lot of production at an over-bloated cost is what people
So
want
how
to
do
get
you
down
know
to.
that?
So just from what I've seen with a lot of the offerings, it's like, hey, we're going to give you 10 different clips from this single show. And it's like, this person posts twice a week. What are they going to do with 10 clips per episode on a weekly show? You know? So, they just want to stuff content down people's throats. And that's been the strategy because that's what they sell is, we're going to give you all of this production.
So do you, and again, I dug in a little bit into your website, but I didn't go very far. So do you offer more custom programs or do you offer packages?
So I'm more customized. And I'm trying to simplify that actually and be more standard with packages because I think I'm too all over the place.
Do other people offer packages or are they more custom?
So I think they're more package like, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
So should you be like everybody else?
Well, and that's the existential question where in a lot of ways, no, I don't want to be like everybody else. And that's why I've leaned so much into the strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're talking to them and does anybody ever say to you in the beginning of this call to say, hey, listen, I want to pull this stuff together. And then you found out that have you ever found out that they've already talked to like 5 or 6 other or 3 other, whatever production companies?
Occasionally I'll find out that they talk to some other companies after I've landed the sale. Like it'll be a month after they've come in. Yeah.
I would ask that question way before the sale because what you're going to learn is either they have not and they have no idea, or they have talked to 5 other or 3 other, whatever it is. And which, and if they're willing to share, I would ask, which ones have you talked to? Just kind of curious because I'm trying to make sure that I'm comparing what you're looking for versus what I do. Because a lot of these other companies, they offer packages and they do different things, but I tend to not do packages because I guess I just look at podcasts saying these should have your feel, your flavor, your approach, and shouldn't be the same as everybody else's. Maybe I'm wrong in the sales process. Maybe I'm wrong, but which do you prefer? More of a cookie cutter approach for you, or would you prefer somebody that's more kind of custom to what you need?
Yeah,
9 times out of 10 they're going to say that, right?
Yeah, I definitely like the custom approach, but so I'm trying to wrangle with the right balance between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how fast and how quick and easy you can scale. If it's just you running it versus a team, how many more people can you add at that profit levels versus, hey, it's going to be just you doing it, let's say, and I'm not, this is for anybody listening. If you're trying to price things out and you're saying, hey, this is a package deal and these are the packages I sell, you're going to be limited to the number of packages you can sell and execute, right? And maybe that's enough, but if you had a team, then that's also, but wouldn't it be nice to have the option of saying, yeah, I don't have packages because everybody's a little bit different. You don't need 10 videos. You need 2 because that's what's really important. We want 2 good quality ones. So with those 2 good quality ones, you're going to put them where you need them. They're going to be the right things, but we're not doing extra work just to say we're doing extra work, right? And it's going to be effective for you. So, and maybe because you're only going to get 2 videos, it's going to be this rate or one rate, but if you needed more, it's another rate, and it's more custom to what you need. But now your dollar amount can be based on really what, honestly, the way I would base it on is their pain level and what they're going to get out of it, right? If they're going to, and this is why I always ask the question about, let's say you make a sale out of this, what does that look like? How much does that bring in for you? Because I don't know what coaching costs, but like if you coach, if you're going to make $200, why is it even worth doing this? If it's going to be, no, it's going to be a $6,000 bill every month that I'm going to get. Oh, okay. Is that a lot or is that a little? Like, I don't know what that means. And make them explain this is really worth it for them, right? Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of times people do. I had a conversation with that with a client this morning. It was literally like, hey, if you're going to get a single coaching client for this certain service that you offer, that's $2,000 in your pocket. Like we need to go after that, and let's pursue getting a few of those through this content. Like that's what it needs to be. But at the same time, it's just like then it gets to the point of like, okay, I agree with all this, and the content is around that, but then their ability to take people through the funnel after I've gotten them the top of the funnel. I think
Yes.
that's
Yes.
it. It's like, oh, I've built this top of funnel for you, but I'm not controlling the bottom, and so it just feels like it falls out.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's why you have all these conversations about your piece first, and they're then asking them about their funnel and what they do. And then, I mean, you got to ask the question, like, okay, what happens if you get, so many leads or you just don't get any, you get a few leads and you don't do anything with them or you don't close them? How is that going to play out? Because I know everybody gets busy, but you're going to be locked into something with this a little bit. And you're going to have a term that you're going to have to work with. If we're going to be doing this for 6 months, I don't want you to look at it and go, boy, I didn't get anything. But in reality, you got 17 calls and none of them closed. How do you want me to deal with that?
That's a heck of a question.
Right. But that's their problem, not yours. But it's squarely placing it on their shoulders by asking them, what do you want me to do about that? Because they know that it's theirs. They're going to try to blame that it didn't do anything. And then the other question I would have for you would be, how do you know how many calls came in? Do you have a way of measuring that?
So no, I don't measure the calls explicitly. I mean, the best stats that I measure are like social media data and the download numbers for the show.
Okay. So part of your package could be, we'll set up a phone number for you, route to your phone, but you'll be able to measure then how many calls they got. Yeah. It's not that expensive to do, right?
Yeah. Or I have a CRM system that I use, and I'm partnered with a guy who built it. It's his own custom app built on Lead Connector. So I know how that system works. Nice. I use it for my whole call process, being able to book people and schedule and track. So it's not one of those things I've been ready to make a commitment to offer that to, but I've definitely thought about how can I pair up this sales element further, and is that something I offer, or do I partner with somebody on that? And I've really been looking to try to find the solution for it.
Well, and I think it just goes the same with any marketing agency, really, right? It's how do you measure the success of this? And is that a question you ask of somebody that's going to be doing the podcast, right? How do you measure that this is a success? Like, you fast forward it, you have all these episodes, but what's a success to you, right? But you've got to, on the other side of this, know what's really success in the end is how many calls did they get, how many deals closed. And you can't control how many deals close if you're not part of the sale process. So you got to at least know the numbers that come in, and how do you know that? And I think that's be the key to know if there's a possibility, can you get a number of leads that came in via email or otherwise that you can then at least see the number. We don't have to control it, but at least see it.
Yeah. Because let me ask you this as a sidestep out of curiosity, because part of what I'm selling to these people is your awareness is going to go up significantly, and what I'm going to do is put you in the room for all of these different strategic conversations and relationship building through the show. So if I can say, okay, well, you went up 500 total followers on your account, or you're over the bulk of your accounts, your engagement levels have peaked significantly. So your level of engagement and likes and all that stuff, sharing, that's all gone up. So you're clearly grown in terms of what your footprint is and your awareness level. I've gotten you connections and conversations with potential referral partner A, B, C, and D, and this potential client A, B, C that lines up, and these have been guests on your show. Is that a fair thing then to just say that is the value and the sales part? You know what I mean? I'm trying to, because there's clearly value in all of those things, and it leads to the sale, but it's not explicitly the sale, and it does separate me versus them.
Yeah. So that goes kind of full circle to what we talked about earlier, which is that's what you think is important, but what's important to them?
Yeah.
And if that's important to them, then that's what you need to verify. And then you also need to say, this is the value that you're getting out of this in your estimate, in your proposal. When you finally present it, it's like, okay, so I think one of the things we talked about was you're going to do this many episodes, you're going to do this many blah, 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 blah. As part of this, what you're going to see is you want to have this much notoriety. You're going to have this much, whatever you just went through, all the different measurements that they would say are important. Or if they didn't say any of them, that's not an issue for them. They don't care.
Yeah.
So you gotta bind that all together so that their need is exactly what you're providing in the end. Because otherwise, you're pitching, and that's why. I mean, that's why we call it the slow pitch. The idea behind the slow pitch is slow everything way down as much as possible within reason. If you wait 2 weeks to call somebody back, that's never going to be helpful, right? But when they're excited, you need to step back a second and go, hold it. Well, wait a second. I know you're excited about putting together a podcast here, but why? And make them explain it, because they need to sell you, right? That's the whole idea behind slowing things down. But in the end, when it comes right down to finalizing and getting that pen on the paper to say, yes, this is what I want to do, it's based on their pain, their problems, what they're trying to solve, and does this solve my problem as well as I think it should be able to solve? I can't control whether or not they can close a sale at the end, but if I can tie all the other things together that are emotional and then make them understand or make sure that we're on the same page that, listen, I can only control what comes in. Remember, we're on the same page here that you're going to close the sales after that, right? Like, I'm not, unless you want me to do the sales, I can do, like, I mean, you can joke about, like, I can close the sales for you if you want to. That's just a different rate. And they're going to say, no, I got it. It just helps reinforce. It's a joke, but it reinforces. Yeah, that's your job, dude, not mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I'm not sure where we should go next, if anything, or are you comfortable with what we've talked about so far?
I feel like that's plenty. I mean, yeah, just from the standpoint of understanding the landscape, potential next steps of places to go after people, ways to open up the conversation with the way to call. Like, yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, perfect. And in fact, my next thing was going to ask you to tell me something you pulled out of this, but you just did.
Ta-da!
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, all right. So for anybody listening, I guess let me just switch over. First of all, Vince, thank you so much for being on the show and being a part of this, because to me, it's always helpful. It's helpful for people to understand what it's like to do any sort of coaching a little bit behind the scenes. Obviously, this is just a public version of that, right? We get into a little more details in a coaching session, but I really appreciate you being a part of the show and helping people understand what you're going through, what you do, but also, like, if there's anybody that's out there that says, I've always talked about putting together a podcast for marketing reasons for my business, they can reach out to you. So what I'm going to ask is, what's the best website they can reach you at? And also, what's the best way they can contact you?
Yeah, so if they want to sit down, if you listening want to sit down and talk with me about your podcast or starting a podcast for your business, go to freepodcasthelp.com. How's that for a domain, baby? Freepodcasthelp.com gets you a free 30-minute compass call with me. So it's talking about everything with your business, the show, and it's a very focused strategy call. It's not like a get-to-know-you sort of thing. So freepodcasthelp.com for that. Or if you want to listen to my podcast that is all about these things as well, alignment at its finest, then the show is called It's Not Just Talking. And that's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast.
All right, Vince, I appreciate it. And for those of you listening, if you wanted to go through something like this, or if you have a question of your own and would like to be a guest on the show, please reach out at questions@theslowpitch.com. Happy to talk through it. Or if you just need some of your own coaching separately, happy to do that as well. Again, thank you, Vince. And until next time, remember, everybody, slow down and you'll close more.
Thank you for listening to The Slow Pitch. Do you have a question about sales? Call or text your question at 608-708-SLOW. That's 608-708-7569. Or you can email them to questions@theslowpitch.com. Slow down and close more.